Hilchas Trumis Perek Arba Aser. Now we learned that Truma is Oila B'Echad and there's one shear of Truma, Legabi 100 times that shear of Chulin, and they got mixed up. So now you have 101, which each one is a suffix, which one is the Truma, which one is the Chulin. So we say that since the Truma is only one, so, and there's 100 times as much, so the Truma became bottle. Now what happens if the Truma gets mixed into a shear of 100? But Lepel, 50 of the 100, we know that's not the Truma. So really, in reality, even Begashmis, there's 100 there, but the suffix is only on 50. So Mele it comes out that there's only 50 connected to Truma. So B'chiyah Gavin, it's not bottle, and that's this din. Chamishim te'enim shchoines. The Chamishim levanis, you have 100 figs, but 50 are black, 50 are white. Shenofun l'teichon te'ena acha shel Truma, and one fig fell in of Truma. Is hoise levana, if the fig defended was levana, is a shcheres mutaris, val vanis mudamois. There's the shcheres are bechlal, not bechlal asofik, so mele the shcheres are mutter, because there's no there's no suffix on the shcheres. And since there's no suffix on the shcheres, so the other 50, which is the levanis, are mudamois, because there's no 100 connected. There's no, if there's 100, and we say one of the 100 is truma, so then we say that it becomes bottle. One of the 101 is Truma, so it becomes bottle. Over here, it's not one of the 101. 50, there's nothing to talk about. And now there's one out of the 50 and one that's Trumas over here, so it's Mudumois. Now, Hoysa Shcheira, if we know Shcheira, so then Shcheira is Mudumois, while Levana is Mutar, it's the same exact din. Now, you know a fig fell in, and it was either black or white, but Lepel, you don't know what it was. And the mela, so now it's a suffix. The suffix is not like normally the suffix would be is that you know it's black, and they're all the same, and one fell in. If you would know it's black, so there wouldn't be a suffix on the black, or there wouldn't be a suffix on the white, or fakert. If you would know it's white, there wouldn't be a suffix on the black. But over here, since you don't know which one it was, so the mela, that creates a suffix on all of them. So now there's 101 figs, and there's one of them that's truma, and you don't know which one is truma. Lepil, you don't know which one is truma. Why don't you know? First of all, because you can't recognize the fig, and also you don't know if it was white or black. So on that factor is also considered that it's medumah. Is oila be'echudumei menakil. Now yoda ma hoisa acher shenafla. It fell in. You knew what it was, and memela at that point in time, let's say the case you knew it was black. So all the black ones, the 50 black ones, were medumois. The 50 white ones was a suffix. You didn't. I mean, it wasn't a suffix. It was 100% beseder. Now v'shachach. Now you forgot. So here the din is arikulam medumois. Now they're all medumois. So in other words, you don't know which one, because over here the emphasis, it started off that only 50 were medumois. Now you don't know which of the 50 were medumois. Now the question is, we learned earlier that, for example, if let's say it fell in together with 50, and then 50 fell in again, another 50 of chulin fell in. So if they fell in b'mezid, so it's still usher. But if it fell in b'sheigig, so then it becomes mutter, because originally it was only mu'uriv in 50, now it's mu'uriv in 100. So the chura, the same thing over here. The same thing over here. Over here, originally you knew it was either black or white. So Mela was only mu'uriv in 50. And at that point in time it was usher. Now that you don't know if it was black or white, so the other 50 also become part of this taruvis, because you don't know. Mela, so now it's more than 100, and it's a shegi because you forgot. So Mela lechura, it should be the same thing like before, that all of a sudden now it should become bottle. This is a kasha the Rebbe yes in Kutzesichas. Now then the Rebbe's masber that the pshat is that over there the pshat is that there was nitoisiv in the taruvis. You have to understand the havanas hadvarim. It was nitoisiv in the taruvis. You know, there was a matzav of 50 in the taruvis, and now they brought another 50. So now it's kilo like a new din of taruvis. But over here, nothing was nitoisiv in the taruvis. Originally there were 50, and there was 50 black and 50 white. At that point, and only really at that point in time, only 50 became part of the taruvis, because you knew which one it was. It was either the black or the white. Now, what was nitoisiv in the suffix was not. They came in addition to the taruvis. Now the suffix is which one of the 50 was the one that was l'chatchila meduma. So it didn't become some new din taruvis. You have to understand the havanas hadvarim. Well, pale mamish, they didn't really change the mitzias of the taruvis. Over there, when there was b'mitzias in the taste of 50, so it's kilo a new din, a new matzef. Before there was 50, it was more than 50. Now it's more than 100. So Memela we say, since it's Mu'urav in 100, so Memela it becomes Mutter. Mashenkin over in the case by us over here, it was Mu'urav in 50, and at that point in time, all the 50 was Usr, and the other ones were Beferish Mutter. Now, we're not really sure which 50 were the ones that became Usr. So, if the Terumos would have happened now, so we would have said it became Mu'urav in 100. That's the question over here. The Terumos would have happened now, and you don't know, so we would have a din that it became Mu'urav in 100. But since the Terumos happened originally when there was only the Terumos originally was only in 50, because at that point in time you did know, and now there was no hisof begashmius in the Terumos. It's not like there's an addition, something happened, but rather it's only a change in yourself that now you don't know which 50 was the one that was Terumos. So we don't look at it as being a Terumos in 100. It still needs. I don't understand it so well, but that's I think the word that the Rebbe says. Halacha base. Just like we're speaking about shcheres and levanas, so the same idea has been again iguli dveila and malbeinu shel dveila. You could have round cakes of figs, and you could have rectangular, square cakes of figs. So v'chein iguli dveila or malbeinu shel dveila. You have a mixture of round cakes of figs and square cakes of figs, and shenaf al igul a malben shel truma l'teichon. And again, either a square cake of figs fell in or a round fell in. Ve'en yadua in malben hoyo a igul. So then you don't know his arei igulim. It starts from malbelim. So they become together. V'talat truma be'echod ameim and akel. So if you would have known what fell in an eagle or a malbein, so then you would only look how many igulim there are. You know it's an eagle. The malbeinim are not b'chlal asafik. Then you have to see if there's 100 igulim of dvelim to be mevatel this eagle that fell in. But again, over here, since you don't know if it was an eagle or a malbein, so memela all of the saidi igulim and saidi malbeinim are all mitzaref to be mevatel. If there's 100 of them, so then it's batel. Now the same idea, igule dvela gdele muktanim, shenafal eagle dvela letechan ve'en yodua im godel hoyim kotten, is over here. There's a chidush harein mailen bein beminyan bein bemishkal. Ketzat nafal eagle lemei igulim gdele muktanim. An eagle fell in. You don't know if it was a godel or a cotton. So memela, so they're both nitzaref to the suffix. But now there's another din that you're supposed to take out one and give it to the kain. That's what we learned before. You have to take out one and give it to the kain. So here, hareini oimer cotton nafal. So when we're taking it out and giving it to the kain, you're saying cotton nafal umagbia echad menaktanim. So even though the pale mitzad the din of Terumos would be mitzad of side the gedolim and side the ktanim, and that's why it's bottled b'meya, because they're all. We don't know if it's a godel felon or a cotton felon. So legabi Terumos, we say we don't know if it was a godel or a cotton felon. But legabi having to give back mamena shel kain, we say it's possible that the cotton fell in. Mamela, I don't know more than a cotton. Mamela, you take out the cotton, you give back the cotton. Now nafal, here's a chidush. Nafal igul letoich mem igulim. You had 40 igulim, and mehem esim igul mishkal kolechad arba litrin. You had 20 of those igulim, which each one was 4. So Mamela comes out that altogether there are 80 litrim in these 20 igulim, and then mehem esim igul mishkal kolechad litra. And some girsa mehem there's esim ve'echad mishkal. Esim ve'echad there's 21, which mishkal kolechad litra. And that's already after it fell in. In other words, you have a matziv that something fell in. Now you're counting what fell in. This is the pshat. You're counting what do you have in this mixture? Which one of them fell in? So what you have is 20 igulim, which each one is 4 litra, and you also have 21 igulim, which each one is 1 litra. Now, you don't really know if a large one fell in or a small one fell in. This is the matzah that you have now. You don't know if you started with 19 big ones and now you have 20 big ones, or you started with 20 small ones and now you have 21 small ones. So we say like this: Hoyel mishkal akel me'el litrum be'echad. Lepeil mamish there's 101 litrum because there's 20 igulim which each one is 4 litrum, and there's 21 igulim which each one is 1 litra. So mele it comes out that you have at the end of it, you have 101 litra. Is hareini yemer, so I'm going to say cotton nafal. So we're going to say cotton nafal. or magbia echad min haktanim, and then you take one of the ktanim and you give it back. So over here, the chiddush over here is the fact that magbia echad min haktanim we had already in the first halacha of this din, of this sif, of this halacha, that you're magbia echad min haktanim because there's no hechrav that you owe more than the ktanim. But over here, the chiddush is that you're being mevatel this whatever fell in with the mishkal, not with the minyan. Even though mitzad the minyan there's only 40. But on the other hand, since in the Mishkal there's 101, so Memele you're being Mavatal, assuming that what fell in was only one, was a eagle that only had one. Memele you're being Mavatal, and you have 100 connected that one. Now the Chiddush over here is L'chur, it's like a Tarta de Sasri. In other words, why are we saying that it's Batal? It's Batal because we don't know which one fell in. If we would know the Gadol fell in, so obviously there wouldn't be Batal. There's only 20 Igul. If we know the cotton fell in, again it wouldn't be batal because we know it fell in. So why are we being mavatal? Because we don't know which one fell in. We don't know which one fell in. We don't know if it was a cotton or a gadol. So l'chura, now you're saying that why is it becoming batal? L'chura, there's only 40 igulim, so you don't know which one fell in, but it's with 40 igulim. So you say, well, but the 20 of the igulim, each one has 4, so Mela comes out that there's 101 litra. Good, there's tak 101 litra. But the only reason why you're being mavatled, because it's late tzad that it's the cotton, and it was late tzad that it was the gadol, so you can't be mavatled. There's only 20 gdel. Elamai, you're being mavatled. You're saying there's 101 litra because it's the cotton. But if it's the cotton, so then you can't take the gadol into consideration. It's not. Whereas you're using the gadol and the cotton together, even though they're not really working together. Whereas you're saying that there's 100 against this one, and that one possibly fell in as one. So I'm saying later tzad that it fell in as one, so the gdelim aren't bechlal the suffik. Elamai, if the gdelim are bechlal the suffik, so it's because the suffik maybe it was a gadol that fell in. So if a subtle that gadol fell in, so there's no 100 against it. I'm just saying that l'chur it's a little bit of mechudish to kazach. So but lepil azay the din is that if you have something that fell into this mixture, and in this mixture there's 101 of mishkal against what possibly fell in as a cotton, so even though we don't know that a cotton fell in, if we know a cotton fell in, a beferish wouldn't be bottle. That's what I'm asking. That if we know a cotton fell in, beferish wouldn't be bottle, because then the gdel wouldn't be bechlal. But on the other hand, since it's a possibility that a cotton fell in, and if a cotton fell in, so then there's 101 connected of the gdelim, so mainly the cotton is bottle. So it's like if the cotton fell in, still we're being matzar of the gdelim because maybe the gadol fell in. Even if the Gdelim fell in, there's no 100 connected, but we're working both ways. I'll call upon him, that's what it says here. Halachi Gimel. V'hakemach v'haselis eina mitzdarfen lahalis esatruma. So in other words, even though we're saying that b'negeya the tenis, so this shcheres and levonis, they are mitzdarf, if you don't know what it fell in, Mashiach, if you would have the same situation of kemach and selis, that you'd have kemach and Selis and fell in, and you don't know if it was Kamach or Selis. So over here, they're not Mitzdarif. And the reason is because when they get to Einim, we say they normally press together. And once they're pressed together, you can't really tell if they're white or black. Because they're only white and black on the outside, but once they're pressed together, it's not really nicker if they were white or black. Masha'enkim, Negech, Kamach and Selis, it's not normal to press them together, to mix them together. Kamach and Selis aren't mixed together. So therefore, they're not Mitzdarif, Lahalis is a Trumas. So in other words, if you had Kamach and you had Selis, and what fell in was a suffix, it was Kamach Haselis. But if you put the Kamach and Selis together, it would be Mavatal, the amount that fell in, but nevertheless, Kamach and Selis aren't Mitzdarif to be Mavatal what fell in. Halacha Dalet. So Shel Chitim, Shenofla al Pi Megura Shel Chitim. It fell on top of the pile of Chitim. Is even though there's in the pile of Chitim, there's 100 times what fell in this saw. Over here, you're not mishar be'echudumeya. Why? She'ein mishar in this whole musig of echudumeya. Ele im nivlula truma machulin. If the truma got mixed up with the chulin, oy im ein yodua be'ezem mokim nafla truma. If we don't know exactly where the truma fell, masha'enkin over here, since you know that the truma fell on top, so mele, so there's nothing it's nothing mixed up over it. The pastor is the whole bittel of echudumeya. Beketed yaser reina satruma kili chitin al gabi seir. We say. You put the truma on top of the megura. So just imagine the truma would be on top of the seirim. If there would be chitim al gabi seirim, so you take the chitim off, you leave the seirim. So the same thing is over here. Mafresh truma atzma shenofla al gabi megura. You take off the truma, which is on top of the megura. You know the truma is on top of the megura, so you know exactly where the truma is. There's no sfekas over here. Imat min achulin shenafla aleim, because you can't mamish exactly yefshel etzamtzum. So mainly you take off the top with a little chulin and others, the amount that you know that once you took off this amount, so for sure the truma is already gone. Which also normally you'll take off a little of the seirim as well, and then you know that there's no truma here anymore. Halacha hey, shtei kupes, a shtei meguris. You have two kupes, a shtei meguris. Shenaflo truma l'tech achsmem, and v'nivela, it fell into one, and it was nivela. However, v'ein yadua le'ezimem nifla. So we learned, whereas when you're being mevatel truma, it could be mevatel in two ways. Either because it got mixed in, the truma got mixed into the chulin, that's one way. Or, the Rambam said before, nalacha daled, or it fell somewhere, and there's possibilities where it fell. There could be two ways of bittul. One question is, it fell and it was in his bat, and it got mu'uriv, and another way, you don't know where it fell. Over here, we're being matzarev both in yonim. Because you have two kupas and two meguris, and it fell and it got mixed into one of the kupas, but you don't know which kupa it got mixed into. So, vein yadol ezmem nafla. So that's it. Im hoyu shtei meguris bebayis echad. Meguris is like two piles. There would be two piles, and they would both be in the same house. Is hareil mitztarfa, so you mitzaref the two meguris together, and vitala be'echad u'meim menakel. So, for example, if in one megura there were 50, in another megura there were another 50, so now, so they're mitztaref, memela it's oile be'echad u'meim. Ki'ilu hayishtei megura achas, as if they would have both been megura achas, but that's only on the condition that it's in the same house, because in the same house you could combine them. Is if they were in boxes, not in a megura. Megura is like a pile, but if they were in boxes, is mistarfes afilo ha'isa kupa b'bayirzev v'kupa b'bayizacher, even if they were in two separate houses. Lefisha korev adover lekabit shteim b'bayizechad, because from boxes, since they're in boxes, it's not such a big deal to pick up one box and bring it to the other box. Avalim hoyu shtei akupas b'shtei ayoris is einem mistarfes. In other words, if it fell into one of the kupas, you don't know which kupa. So if it's in two separate houses next to each other, so then it's starved. Mashengan, if they're very far from each other, and there's also a suffix which kupa it fell into, so b'chiyah gavni you don't mitzar of the kupa. So nachamol, v'negeh megura, it's the same suffix, but megura, since in order for them to be combined is only if they're in the same house, that's when it's most likely to be combined. So then you mitzar of them in order to make the bittul. Mashenkin b'negeh kupas, even if they're two separate houses, so it's easier to combine them. All you have to do is pick up the house. So then you mitzaref them and you mevatel it. Now the keitzad ma'ila soshenafla, there's a din when something is bottled. Be'echad u'meya, you also have to be ma'ila soshenafla. So you have an option. Imrotza lahalis me'echad mishteyem, if you want to take from one of them the entire so ma'ila. Imrotza lahalis chetzi mizu, v'chetzi mizu is ma'ila. Also you can be ma'ila. Notice when you're being ma'ila, so since they're both part of the suffix, so they're both part of the suffix, so you can take half of saw from this, or half of the saw from this, or you could take the entire saw from one of them. So the Rambam continues with the second halacha. Kadim maleim te'enim shel chulin, shedoras litra she'enim shel truma, litra te'enim shel truma, b'fi kad echad mem. So you have a number of kadim of chulin, which are pressed with te'enim, and on top of one of those kadim, you pressed a litra of te'enim shel truma. You don't know which kad has that litra shel truma. Is imhoyisham meya kad vikad. I don't know if it's meya kad vikad, but I'll call upon the Teisan Shishem says that it means meya ve'echad. It means meya ve'echad. Imhoyisham 101. Maybe it's meya kad vikad plus the kad which you're going to take out. So the din is harezutala. So you mile one kad, v'lekeach kad echad mem, and you take one of the kadim. That litra has to be given to the kain, but you give the entire kad to the kain. The entire kad to the kain goes to the kain, except for that litra, v'hashar mutar, and the rest is mutar. But if less, then a pumin kulim d'mois, and v'hashulayim mutarim. So no, the shail is really only on the pumin. So Mimela, since there's less than 100, so there's no 100 pumin. So Mimela, all the pumin are asr, but Masha'inkin, not the pumin, are mutar. Now, l'chura, since only the issue is on the pumin and not on the sh'ar, so l'chura, you have to understand. Before we said that if there was 100 or 101, so it's mila. So what do? You take the entire kad and you sell it to the kohen. Chutz me'is a litra. What do you have to take the entire kad? L'chura, you have an option to take just the pia kad, the litra which is bepi, one of the kadim, and give it away to the kohen? Why do you have to take the whole kad and give it to the kohen? So on that they bring that that lepel mamish, if the akasha they bring from Ben Aryeh, which Rabbi Yisrael Salant, his father. So Al Kolpan, he says, once you made him this litra from the kad, is keilu with mizbarer that over here there was the truma, and once over here was the truma. So the question is, there's no meya connected. I don't understand so well the teretz. It's the teretz brought down from Shita Mukovetzis and Beitza, the Ram Aruch brings. But I'll call upon there's like a din derabbanan. It's a din derabbanan. There's mikra the din l'churi. You only have to be made in one, and the one could be the litra which is on top of one of the kadim, the pi of one of the kadim. Over here the chiddush is no. You take the entire kad and you give it to the kohen, and the kohen pays you back for everything other than the value of the litra which is on top of the kad. Okay. Halacha zayin v'chein im dorsa al pi kaveres al pi igul ve'en yodeh ezohu. So it's the same thing, like al pi akad and en yodua ezohu, and if there's 100, so then it's eila be'echad u'meya, and if it's 101, so it's eila be'echad u'meya, and you have to give one to the kohen, and if it's not 100, so all the tops are midumois. Now dorsa al pi ha'igul, you would dorsa al pi ha'igul, and over here there's another suffix. Ve'en yodua in the pi ha'igul gufa in betzveine e bedreimei. First of all, you don't know if it was betzveine bedreim, and also v'le eze igulu. You don't know which is igul. You have two sveikas here. One, you don't know if it's betzveine or bedreim, and also you don't know if it's which igul. So then is a very nice and kili prudus. Then we don't start thinking only about the pio igul, because since there's a suffix also, if it's betzofen or bedorim, so already mitzaref keilu there's a suffix. But again, the entire eagle. Originally, when we know it's the Pio eagle, so the whole Pio eagle is usher of one of them. The question is only which Pio eagle it is. So over there, we say that we have to see if there's 100 of Pio eagle. Mashengan over here, since there's already a suffix, not only which Pio eagle it is, but in the Pio eagle gufa, whether it's the tzofan or the darim. So here we're already mitzaref as if the suffix is not only benegeh the Pio eagle, if it's betzofan or bedarim, benegeh the entire eagle. Rei nesa kilei prudis. And then v'tala l'fiyah mishkol. Then we're ma'ila l'fiyah mishkol, and as if there's a mishkol of 100 times the amount that was brought in there, so memela, so that's also mitzdaref to be mavatalit. Im yesh b'chol yigulim meya litrin is tala. Tala, then it's ma'ila, and that's again over here we're saying again that this mishkol, even though l'chura that's not really part of the suffix, but that was the chiddush. The chiddush is that since there's a mishkol of a meya litrin, there's a litter that was of Isser, and that litter was Nis'arv over here. So even though the Isarvus is not really, if you start making the cheshbon, there's no 100 times connected this Isarvus, but nevertheless you mitzarv everything also according to the Mishkol, and if in the Mishkol there's 100 times of the litra, it becomes bottle. Abavahu, that it's only a suffix d'Rabbanan. Because why? How could it be only a suffix d'Rabbanan? Because we know that in the Pia litra there's rei. V'hu sheyesh b'chol igul mem yesr al shnei litrim kedei shedibotl atruma bereiv. So notice in the eagle, and it's brought down, it doesn't mean the eagle, it means the Pia eagle. It has to be the top of the eagle. In other words, it's for sure that there was bottle bereiv. It's mu'uriv in shnei litrim. It was more than shnei litrin. I'm sorry, it was mu'uriv. It was more than shnei litrin, and memela only a liter of truma got mu'uriv. So memela it is definitely bottle bereiv. V'hu sheyesh b'chol igul mem, or b'chol pi igul mem, yeser al shnei litrim kedei shedibotl atruma bereiv. Shesafik atruma bottle bereiv chul. Because lepel, this suffix, because this is suffix truma, became bottle bereiv chul. It became bottle bereiv chul. So notice in each eagle there's really a suffix of this truma, and there's also a rave. So suffix truma is bottle bereiv. Whereas the suffix of the truma and the eagle is bottle in the rave chulin, which is definitely there. In other words, even if it's there, it's bottle bereiv. Halacha ches hatruma vaday eser b'meya. So notice if there would be only 100 together with the truma, so it would be aser. In order for it to be mutter, it has to be meya v'echot. It's not enough meya. Usveika, if it's suffix truma, so then it's eser b'chamishim. If there's 50, so even though there's suffix truma mu'uriv and there's only 50, there's no 51, in other words, there's no 50 against the suffix, so then it's also aser. Ve'ein lo heter ele bereiv, and in that point in time you'll need bereiv. Bereiv would mean you'll have to be marbe on these chamishim. It should be meya keneged yechad. It should be meya ve'echad, as we'll soon learn. However, v'mhoye b'yesim b'chamishim, If the suffix truma fell into yesim chamishim, in other words, it started off already as chamishim ve'echad, so then is einot tzrich harev, then you don't have to be marba, and then everything will be mutter. Ketzad. Te'ena achas truma. That's the first halacha. A truma vade esi b'meya. Truma, te'ena achas truma. Shenoflo l'tishim v'teisha, so there's only 99 against the truma. Is varei hameya kayomim, there's 100 here. Is akel osir l'zorim k'misha b'yarno. So no, it's only bottled. Be'echodomeya, masha'inkin, if there's 99 against the truma, it's all bottled. Now what happens? Nofla achas lichamishim, it should say. V'ov the achas min akel. So over here we have nofla achas lichamishim, it means that together with the nofel is chamishim. It means nofla achas lichamishim, and now together with everything there's only 50. And lepel v'ov the achas min akel, and one of them got lost. And shema achas min achul ni she'ovda, yachas shenofla hi she'ovda. So we're not really sure what fell. What fell was chulin and what fell was truma. So therefore it goes in together of suffix. So the din is harei lo asuris. Since it only fell into 50, and there was only 49 keneged the matzav, is harei elo asuris at sheyarba aleim chulin mokemacher, until you bring more chulin. V'yesav aleim chamishim teinas v'achas yeser akel, and now that truma will be bottled b'mei v'achad. And although normally is a mevatel isel lechatchila, but b'chiyai gavna that it was bottled b'chamishim, so it's mevatel isel lechatchila. So some people say that even in a case where it wasn't mamish chamishim, it was less than chamishim, as long as it was reiv, so you could also be mevatel isel lechatchila. You could also be mevatel in such a case when it was nevda. In other words, it fell into reiv, lav davka chamishim, it fell into reiv, and then one of them was nevda, so then you could be marbe because it's a suffix truma. That's talking about if it was only chamishim. In those the originals, there was no 50 against the truma. There was only 49. Masha'in came the nofla achas shel truma l'tei chamishim v'achas. So notice over here there was 50 of chulin against the truma. No nofla achas shel truma l'tei chamishim v'achas means that together with the truma it's chamishim v'achas, and then va'ov the achas menakel, and one of them was lost. So then is huter hashar l'zorim. So it became muter l'zorim. So again, if you have vadai, so vadai has to go into 100. And if it goes into 99, it's asr, period. If you have suffix, what does suffix mean? Over here, suffix means that it fell into 50, and then one is lost. So lepel, we don't know really that there's truma here. Because you're saying, the question is if it's bottled. First we have to know, it's not sure there's truma here. So male, in such a case, if it fell into 50, which means together there was only 50, so then in order for it to be bottled, you're going to have 100 me'avechats. You'll have to add, which you're allowed to add, but you'll have to add. Masha'inkin, if it fell into 51 originally, if the original falling was 51, and then it was nevda achas mem, so again we have a suffix over here, and that suffix is mutter as long as there's 50 connected. That's the word. As long as there's 50 connected, it's mutter, and you don't have to be mesif that it should be 100, 101. That's this din. Now the Maises, the Rambam earlier said that suffix that suffix is batal bereiv. No suffix to the end of halacha zayin was suffix hatruma batal bereiv, and over here we're saying that a suffix needs is not batal bereiv. L'chura, that's a suffix that ain't a batal bereiv. But the difference is a very big difference. In the case over there, before the taruvus, it was already a suffix. It was nisarav. There's a suffix whether or not there's truma here. There's a suffix. We don't know if there's truma here, so we don't know if there's truma here. And even if there is truma here, there's a reiv connected. So then we say that the suffix is batal bereiv. Masha'inkin, in the case over here, there was truma. There was originally truma, and it was nisarav. And now there's a suffix because one of the soin got lost, so the suffix was chal later. So if the suffix was chal later, so it's not enough a reiv. Over here you need that there should be chamishim connected. In other words, in order for it to be mutter, there has to be chamishim connected. And if there was no chamishim connected, so it'll only be mutter if you'll add that it should be meya. It should be meya connected. Together should be meya v'achas. That's this halacha. Halacha yud. So truma shenofla lepachis mimeya meiserishin shalei nitlu trumase. You have meiserishin that shalei nitlu trumase, and you have a so truma that fell into this meiserishin shalei nitlu trumase. Oy lemaise sheni v'hegdish shalei nivdu v'nidma hakel. So then as I say, im lemaise nofla is yikra shem letrumas maisa. You should be clear shem because the trumas the maisa that has to be mafresh truma, and the yemacher hakel lekenim chutz midmei truma shenofla midmei trumas maisa shebei, which then you have to give anyways to a kain. So normally you can't take money for it, but everything else which is meduma, which is only roy for a kohen. So for that, the kohen has to pay whatever the Dmei Truma is. However, v'im l'maisa sheni v'hegdish nafla, so then it's harei liyapodi. You have to be paid it. You can't go ahead and sell it because it's not yours to sell. Maisa sheni is mom and goveya, and hegdish is also mom and hegdish. So mele it's meduma. So what should you do with it? You should be paid it. Mele now you give the money to hegdish, or you give them the money is used for maisa sheni, whatever maisa sheni money is used, and then you go ahead and sell the rest of the produce to a kain. Chutz midmei truma. That's what it. So the chiddush over here is that if it's tevel le trumas meiser, so you should take care of that first before you sell it to a kain. And al derech benegeh hegdish meiser sheni, you have to be paid it before you sell it to a kain. Halacha yudalef so truma tmeya shenafla lepachis memeya chulin. So you have truma tmeya that fell into pachis memeya chulin, so it's meduma. Oy mi meiser rishon, a meiser sheni, a hegdish, bein tmei and bein terim, that they fell into any of these things, either chulin or you fell into meiser rishon or meiser sheni or hegdish. It makes no difference. Aber heil v'nidma hakel, since it's meduma, so you have over here truma tmeya, which is meduma into this chulin or into meiser sheni or into hegdish, is akel truma ketruma tmeya. So the whole thing has a din of truma tmeya, which is asura b'achil l'akil. Nobody's allowed to eat this truma tmeya. It's truma tmeya. No one's allowed to eat it. There's no way it's going to become mutter. So, however, l'chura normally truma tmeya has to be burnt, but over here the question is, since it's a taruvis of truma tmeya in these things, so the din is manichan eisen achi yirkavu. You're allowed to leave it until you don't have to burn it. There's no rush to burn it. Manichan eisen achi yirkavu. You could leave them. There's no chiyuv to burn it. It's not pure truma tmeya, so there's no chiyuv to burn it. It's not something you're worried that people are going to eat, because something that's not normally eaten raw, so a person has to cook it. So you're not worried that by the time he cooks it, he'll realize you're not supposed to eat it. Is le'anicham. You can't just leave it around, because shema yitkol bem v'yechol mem. So v'meila liyad l'kakel kederush madlikan trumat tmeya. You'll be madlik everything, like you're madlik trumat tmeya. Normally trumat tmeya should be burnt. But over here, it's truma tmeya, which is mu'urav and other things. So if there's a concern that no concern you can eat it, so there's no chiyuv to burn it. Masha'enkin, you could wait till yirkavu. Masha'enkin, if there's a concern that you're going to eat it, so then you have to burn it and get rid of it. Halacha yud beis. This was talking about a saw truma tmeya, which was nafla and became meduma. So we have a truma tmeya, which you never able to eat it. Now we're talking about a saw truma teira, which is shenafla lepachis mimeya chulun tmeya. Now, and we're talking about also that this truma tehera is not yet mukshir lekabel tumah. So even though it fell into meya pachis meya chulun tmeim, but nevertheless it's not mekabel tumah because it's not mukshir lekabel tumah. So the din is azay yimacher hakel leken chutz midmei truma, just like regular meduma, you sell everything to the ken and chutz midmei truma. Now the question is, we don't want that the kohen should eat this truma and be matami the truma. You don't want the truma should become tummy. Now, if you're going to go ahead and make from all this whole saw, you're going to make into one mixture. You make a dough. So the churisa, it's going to become wet because with water. You're going to mix it with water, and memela, so the truma tehera will become tummy from the chulun tmeim. Now the din is that oichel is not matami something else even after it becomes mukshir, unless it's the size of a kibetza. If it's less than a kibetza, we learned already that it's not matami something. It's not oichel is not matami unless it's a kibetza. That's din number one. And din number two is that oichel is not mekabel tuma unless it becomes mukshir lekabel tuma. Now here we're concerned we don't want the truma, which is mixed with chul and tmeim, to become tummy. So and now the kohen has all of this to eat. So what's the eitzah? So vakoyin oichel meduma zekloyis. So there's one eitzah that he should eat it as kernels, as roasted kernels. So it'll never become wet. The kernels will never become wet. The kernels of truma never became wet, so they never became tummy. Or another option is yolush oisi b'mei peiris. He should knead them, make them into a dough with mei peiris. She'ena machshirin. The only thing that's machshir is only the zayin mashkin. But if you use apple juice is not machshir. She'ena machshirin. Kedei shelititome hatruma shabei menachulun atmeim. In order for the truma not to become tummy. That's a second option. Or a third option is yolush medumazeh pachis mikabetza. In other words, you take the mixture of chulin, which is chulin tmeim and truma teira, and you need only a pachis mikabetza, Because shein oichel tami metame echel acher at sheyeh kebeitza. What are you concerned? That the truma which is here will become tame from the chulin, which is becoming mixed up with water. You're right. The truma became mixed up with water, but lepel there's not enough chulin to be metame because we're not dealing with the kebeitza of chulin. That's another option. Or yischalik medumezeh pachis mikebeitza b'chalitza. You'll make a dough, a large dough which is a tor dika dough, but you'll only put in a pachis mikebeitza in each isa in order for this not to be matame the dough and memela not to matame the truma. So the nekuda kedei sheli titame truma shabes. The nekuda is you have truma teira which mixed in with chulin tmeim. You don't want the truma teira to become tame. So memela there's eitzes. Either the truma teira you make sure that truma teira doesn't become mukshal kabel truma, or the truma teira is not exposed to the chulin tmeim while the chulin tmeim either you don't want it to become mukshal kabel truma by using it dry, or by making a dough which is not makshal kabel tumah because it's meiperis and it's not from the zayin mashkin, or you use it that it should be pachas mikabeitza. So if it's pachas mikabeitza, so maybe it's not going to be metami. Yeah, it doesn't really have to be pachas mikabeitza, even a kabeitza, because part of it is the truma. But mitzad the chash that you can be mitzamsim b'shiurim, so you want that the whole share should be a pachas mikabeitza. Halacha gimel, yud gimel. So truma tmei. Over here we were talking about truma tehera that fell into chulun tmei. Over here is fakert. So truma tmei shenoflo lemeya chulun tehera. So you find the so truma tmei fell into meya chulun tehera. V'chein so truma tehera, which is shenoflo lemeya chulun tmei. And over here we're talking about a case where it became bottle. So it was echad lemeya. It's tala be'echad lemeya. So there's no isa truma. The isa of eating truma is not there. Whereas the issue for Yisrael to eat truma is not there. But on the other hand, Yitaka, there's no issue to eat truma mitzad Yisrael. But on the other hand, there is a din that since it was truma, so you shouldn't be metamet. It's like a chidush over here. So on one hand, you're saying mitzad the issue of a zor eating truma is no problem because it became bottle because there's echad umeya. Masha'enken, there's another problem. You're not supposed to eat truma tmeya. You're not supposed to eat truma tmeya. So memela, so therefore, v'ti'achol kloyis, a tolish meiperis, a pachs mikabeitza, she'ein aso shenofla, he aso atzma she'olsa. Because even though you took a saw and you gave it to the kohen, but that saw is not really necessarily the truma, so there's still truma mixed in here. So since there's still truma mixed in here, so therefore you don't want to be matame that truma. It's like, because on one hand there's no problem of a zor shachal truma. But on the other hand, there's a problem of being metame that truma. You don't want to be metame that truma. Now this din l'chur is good when we're talking about a saw truma tehera, shenafla l'mei chulun tmeim. So memela, so the saw truma tehera, even though it's mutar l'zorim, but on the other hand, you don't want to be metame that saw truma tehera. Masha'enken in the case where there's the truma tmeya, which is nafla l'mei chulun teherin, so over there the truma is the already tummy. The truma is already tummy, and you're going ahead and eating it because you're saying it's not truma anymore. It became bottled, they're not eating it. So what are we concerned about being matami? What are we being matami? L'chura, the chulun teherim is not being matami. So that's also it's a din d'rabbanan. Since if it would be a truma tehera that was fell into meya chulun tmeim, so then it would be usher to be matame. So al is over here. If it's a truma tmeya that's fell into meya chulun teherim, it's also usher matame. It's like a din d'rabbanan that there should be a mitzad gzeir. Halacha yudalet. So truma tmeya. Shenoflo lemeya so shel truma teira. So they're both truma. There's truma tmeya that fell into meya so shel truma teira. So the din is batal b'miyuta. So even though there's an issur to eat truma tmeya, but lepel since it was nofla lemeya so shel truma teira, it's batal b'miyut. However, ve'echel nakel b'tara. You have to eat everything b'tara, which means you can't do anything that will cause that the truma tmeya should be metame the truma teira. The truma teira is the teira. So you're now you have to make sure that you should bake it in such a way, either that the truma teira shouldn't be makabel tuma, or that there shouldn't be a kabetza of the truma tmeya in this mixture with the truma teira. Because you have to be concerned not to be metame the truma teira. Now the din over here is that even though we say a truma becomes bottle in chulin, the issur of a zar eating truma goes away when there's a issur of the issur of the zar eating truma goes away if it's bottled in meya of chulin, but nevertheless the truma doesn't become bottled in tehera. If you have a saw of truma tmeya that fell into 100 saw of truma tehera, the tumah doesn't become bottle. The tumah still remains tumah. So in we have a saw of truma tmeya, and that saw of truma tmeya there's the isser of eating truma tmeya, taka goes off. Memela, you're allowed to eat it. Masha'enkan, you're not, but it's still tummy. And memela, so you're not allowed to be metame, the truma teira. Now, vim nafla, this is if it was nafla l'meya. So if it's nafla l'meya, the isser is the nachmal. There's an isser of eating truma for a zar, and there's an isser for eating truma tmeya for a kohen. The isser of eating truma for a zar goes off. The isser of eating truma tmeya for a kohen goes off. But the tumah doesn't go off. It doesn't become uis tummy. And memela, that tumah could still be metame, the truma tehera. And memela, you have to bake it in such a way. You have to make it in such a way that the tumah shouldn't make the Torah tummy. V'im nafla lepachis memeya. So memela became mu'uriv. You have truma tmeya, mu'uriv with truma tehera, and memela and truma tmeya you're not allowed to eat. So the din is yaniyach hakil acha yirkav. You have to leave everything until it's yirkav, in order to make sure that it does. You're not allowed to eat it. Yeah. And again, if it's a chash that is going to eat it, so you burn it. Halacha tezvav. Shtei kupis shenofla social truma l'teich achas mem, and v'noida le'ezem mem nofla. So a saw fell into one of these kupis, and we know which one it fell in. V'achar kach nofla saw shniya, and then another saw fell in. Another saw of truma fell into one of the kupis. Now the second one is ein yadua le'ezem mem nofla. We don't know which one fell in. As again, we have two kuppas of chulin that a saw of truma fell into one of them, and now we have another saw of truma fell into one of. Then we knew which one it fell into, and now we have another saw of truma that fell into one of them, but now we don't know which one it fell into. So we say lemakim shenafel rishena nafel lishniya. If you should tell the sakalkola b'makulka, we assume that since the first one is already there's meduma, so it fell into the first one. Even though be'emes it's a chasafik, it's not pshat. There's a svara lekan or lekan. But on the other end, we're toila, and that's a din d'rabbanan, and memela. So the other kupa is considered chulun. It's not considered meduma. It's not a safik meduma. It's not considered a safik meduma. Now nofla. This is talking about at first the sori shena fell in, and you knew to which one it fell in, and the second one you didn't know which one it fell into. So we assumed the second one fell where the first one fell in. But what happens fakert? Nofla sori shena l'teichachas mem. And at that point in time, they were both a suffix. Mele, they were both a suffix meduma. And now v'acharkach nafla saw shniya and v'noida leizmem nafla, and the second saw, we know which one it fell into. And let's say now that the first one fell into where the second one fell in. So we say no. Ein neimer lemakom shnafla shniya nafla l'shena. L'shtei mukul kolos, because at that point in time, l'chatchila, when it fell in, they were both besuffic, and there was no reason to be tailing one more than the other. So memela, they became both also. Halacha tezayin. Hoyu shtei kupis, achas tmeya v'achas teira, and v'nafla social truma la'achas mem ve'ein yedua ezehi. So again, oimrim l'toich hatmeya nafla. Since again we're toila b'mekulkul, memela we're toila that if one of them became mekulkul, so the mekulkul became mekulkul. Halacha yud zayin. Shtei kupis. So we had a case where there was a kupa that there was truma already, and now truma fell in. The question is to which kupa did it fall into, the one with truma or the one without truma? So we say it fell into the one with truma. Then we had a case of one teher and one tmeya. So again we say the truma fell into the tmeya. Now you have a case, halacha yud zayin, shtei kupis, achas truma teher, one has truma, which in halacha tezvav we said that we assume it fell into the truma, and v'achas shel chulun tmeya, and the other one is tmeya, which in halacha tezayin we said we never that it fell into the tmeya. And now nafla saw truma teira l'teich achas mem. So over here we say emrim l'teich shul truma nafla. We assume that it fell into the truma. And memela the chulin tmeim is not asura l'zorim, because we assume that it's still mutar l'zorim. However, v'chulin ya'ochlu b'tare ketruma. Whereas we're choishish, and on one hand we're saying it's not truma, and memela it's mutar l'zorim. But on the other end we're choishish that maybe there is truma. And so you have to make sure that it should be betaras. Say it should be betaras haguf, that the person that's eating it shouldn't be tamei, and say that it should be also that it shouldn't be matami. In other words, if you're going to go ahead and bake it, so you should make sure lu yitzur this truma there shouldn't become tamei from the chul and tmeim, and that would be either through making it kloyes or not being machshirit or doing pachas mikabetza. There's all those things that we said before that when truma fell in to something which it becomes more if you have to make sure that not to be metame the trumas. Halderas over here, even though we're saying a zor is mutter to eat it, so we're saying there's no truma there. But nevertheless, you have to make sure not to be metame it. Halacha Yud Ches. Now, remember Halacha Yud Ches and Halacha Yud Tes, they meichik the Halacha Yud Ches because it's mamish repeated in Halacha Yud Tes. We'll say it anyways. Halacha Yud Ches, nafla saw truma tmeya, l'teich achas mem, is oimrim l'teich shel truma nafla, it fell into the truma, and ve'achulin ya'achul kloyes betarek truma gdela. Now here's a chiddush, because l'chure, the truma was tmeya, and the chulin were also tmeya. The truma was also, the chulin was also tmeya. So l'chure, so I mean, what's the point in eating it kloyes? L'chure bishleim, if there's a concern of being metame the truma, so you have to eat kloyes, you have to eat it betar. Even if there's a concern of being metar with the chulun, so we can say you should be metar with the chulun, or to be metar with the tara. But over here they're both tamei. So here's a chiddush that nevertheless is yochlu kikloyes. That's l'chorah chiddush. Yochlu kloyes betara ketruma gedela. Allah you test the same din. So truma tmeya shenafla l'teich achas mem. The achas mem means the two cases. One was truma teira and the other one was chulun tmeim. Is aimim l'teich shel truma nafla. And memela the chulun is not asa l'zor. Again, the chiddush is the truma was tummy and the chulun was tummy, and nevertheless yachul kloyes yelushim meiperes a big chiddush. Halacha chaf shtei kupis achas shel truma tmeya, va'achas shel chulun teirin, and v'nafla saw shel truma teira l'teich achas mem. Is emrim l'teich shel truma nafla v'achulun yachul kloyes. Again, we told that the truma fell into the truma. We tailored that the truma fell into the truma, and memela the chulin will be mutter. And the point is over here, the truma tmei is the anyways aser. So memela, by saying that the truma fell into the truma, you're not asering anything, and you're being tailored that the chulin still retains its heter, because we were talking about the chulin is chulin. So memela they retain its heter. However, since there's still a chash that maybe there's truma there, so therefore zachulin yachul kloyes. You should. No, on one hand, a zor is allowed to eat this chulin. You're not worried about it. But on the other hand, we're worried that maybe there's truma there, and therefore you don't want to be metamid. So the answer is yachul klois. Halacha chaf aleph. Nafla social truma tmeil teich achas me'am. So we hear shtein asuris. Shesafik truma tmeil dechaser. Abesafik hameduma mutter. And knows if the issue is whether it was nizdami, what's the issue is? That the truma was truma teira. The question is that did it asa the truma tmeya? Did it asa the chulin? So we say since it's only a drabanan because be'emes is doch bottle bereiv. So memela, since it's bottle bereiv, so memela there's no concern. It's only a concern at the rabbanan level, and therefore you can be tailor lahakal. Mashenken truma tmeya. If this truma tmeya fell into this chulin, so the truma tmeya doesn't become bottle bereiv. Truma tmeya is the truma doesn't become bottle. So memela, if there's truma tmeya, it's asam and atera. So memela that you can't be tailor lahakal. That's what he's saying. Shesofik truma tmeya asur. The suffix amedum mutter. Why? Because it says truma tmeya is menatera. The issue of truma tmeya is menatera. In other words, even if it fell in and it became this Arab, but it's also menatera. The issue amedum midivreim ala ikra shebiyarnu behilchas yisurim machalos. That we learned that if it's min b'minei, so memela be'emes, it's bottled. The whole din that is you need a meya ve'acha. In other words, you need 100 times as much in order to be mevatel it. That it should be bottled ve'acha meya. That's only on a drabanan level. So therefore, you could be tailor lekula.